Ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador Winthrop and our esteemed guests, it is my first visit to Concern South Korea, and it's a great honour to be here this evening. I look forward to the discussion, and I'm delighted that our goodwill ambassadors, baritone Claudia Jung and pianist Hu Zhou Li, will perform for us. The Global Hunger Index is produced annually by Concern Worldwide and Welta Hunger Hilfe. The 2023 index shows that while some countries have made significant headway in reducing hunger, little progress has been made on a global scale. Since 2015, hunger remains serious or alarming in 43 countries. Later in the programme, my dear colleague Saroj Josh will take us through the main findings of this year's Global Hunger Index. But before that, I would like to start our discussion this evening by taking a moment to reflect on the world we are living in today. Today there are over 360 million people in need of humanitarian assistance in the world. And shockingly, those numbers keep growing. The map illustrating the 2023 Global Hunger Index clearly shows where hunger is most severe in the world. Climate change, as we know, is affecting every country in the world in one way or another. However, the GHI map starkly points out that to the reality that those countries which know we're most impacted, my apologies. An extreme emergency alert, whatever that is. However, the GHI map starkly points to the reality that those countries which we know are most impacted by climate change are also where hunger is most prevalent. They're the ones suffering from increased temperatures and higher food prices, devastating droughts and floods, and the resulting losses in livelihood and displacement. Conflicts, both new and protracted, are also found all too often in the same areas. Conflicts that are often triggered by the great natural resources found in the same countries. And those conflicts are leading to even more loss of livelihood and further displacement. Humanitarian agencies like Concern do our best to respond to the extreme need and greater demand for humanitarian assistance. But we must also offer hope. And the 2023 Global Hunger Index points to the potential of youth and a hopeful future in harnessing the great potential of the world's youthful population. Climate change is bringing change, and most unwelcome as that change might be, it is also an opportunity as communities are forced to rethink the approach to food and nutrition. Last year, Concern worked with 36 million people experiencing extreme poverty in 25 countries. Every country is different, every context is complex, and the capacities of families to cope with shocks varies. I've been with Concern in my capacity as CEO for almost a year now. I have been fortunate to see examples of the great impact Concern has in the fight against extreme poverty in Bangladesh, in Kenya, and in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Bangladesh, visiting farmers in districts near Khulna, I have seen how local communities are adapting to increasing soil salinity and other changes driven by climate change in these districts. How they now manage rainfall, soil fertility, and crop production in a totally new way. Ways that were adopted not only to lessen the impact of climate change, but also designed to radically improve child nutrition and create new markets and livelihoods for the communities with better produce. Just flicking on there. Sorry guys, the screen has stopped. In Kenya, Concern is running a 5-year nutrition programme in urban informal settlements, with support from the Korea International Cooperation Agency, KOICA. This innovative programme, working with local partners, has successfully developed healthy, affordable and much needed foods for children and pregnant women, improving the health and nutrition of over 300,000 people living in informal settlements. Concern's work in Bangladesh and Kenya illustrates how change and innovation can help address hunger in the world today. In Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, 6.7 million people are displaced by conflict and live in camps entirely dependent on humanitarian assistance. In 2022, Concern supported over 150,000 people in the Democratic Republic of Congo with emergency cash transfers, food assistance and food distributions, and supported treatment to 20,000 children under 5 suffering from malnutrition, respiratory infections and malaria. Over 1 million women in DRC are survivors of extreme sexual violence. I spoke with women who are looking after their own children, their grandchildren, and often their relatives' children displaced by ongoing conflict in the country. Children in these refugee and displacement camps receive little, if any, education, a shocking injustice. The GHI report emphasises the importance of emphasising not only in the skills for youth, but also in access to productive resources to enable them to sustain themselves. In many parts of the world, young people face stark realities. They are more likely than adults to be affected by extreme poverty and food insecurity, with young women particularly affected. Young people are 3 times more likely to be unemployed. They do not lack capability, but they often lack access to skills, training, land, and opportunities to productively engage in food systems. Such barriers have turned many young people away from agricultural and rural livelihoods. We must invest in their futures and the future of our food systems. We will hear from Min-Kay Kang later in the evening, who will share her experience of growing up in the 21st century. First, however, it is my great privilege to introduce Ambassador Michelle Winthrop, Ireland's ambassador to South Korea, a leader who is truly passionate about the impact of climate change on the world's most vulnerable and a dear friend of Concern. Thank you.
안녕하십니까. 주대해 주셔서 감사합니다. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the Concern Korea team excuse me, for inviting me here this evening to offer my congratulatory remarks on this important occasion. It hardly feels like a year since we convened for the Korea launch of the 2022 Global Hunger Report. Sadly, the narrative from this year's report is really no better than that from last year. Our challenge remains the same: to kickstart progress in addressing world hunger and urgent action to save lives in key hotspots. The report this year talks about a so-called polycrisis. And in English, it's a nice word. It's clever. It sounds kind of clever. It succinctly describes the scale of the humanitarian challenge we face. But it does mask the reality faced by millions of children and young people today. Waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of gunfire or bombs. Having to walk a couple of kilometres further each year to fetch drinking water. Each day having to decide who in the family gets to eat. Having to make the grim decision to make a dangerous journey in the hands of gangsters just to secure some sort of safety for your children. This is hunger in 2023, polycrisis style. Since this report was prepared and launched in English, unfortunately we have seen a further deterioration in global security, with all eyes on the Middle East and Ukraine. We run the risk of forgetting about so-called hidden conflicts elsewhere in the world, which themselves add further to the burden of global hunger. The annual Global Hunger Report is an important piece of work because it shines a light on where the most urgent action is required to save lives and also to transform food systems. Importantly, in this time of darkness, it gives us hope. It gives us something to focus on. This year, that hope is the potential role of young people. By building their decision-making power, by strengthening their job prospects, by building their skills to shape their own futures, we can turn this hunger trajectory around. By acknowledging that they will have to deal with the consequences of today's actions, or lack of action, in terms of climate change, action on nutrition, and efforts to prevent conflict. We can turn this trajectory around by listening to young people and giving them a say. And today, of course, is a very special day for young people in Korea. I just realised that today is National SATS Day, and everybody is focused on young people today in Korea. So it is very fitting that we're here today focusing on you as young people and your role. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome David Regan, Concern's newish Chief Executive, to Korea for his first time and to this really important role. David, you and your team have much to do in the year ahead, but know that the Irish government is fully behind your work all over the world, each and every day. In Korea, Concern's leadership in building awareness on global hunger and mobilising humanitarian action is vital, and for that I thank you. 고맙습니다.